One, there you go. We are back and the Steam Awards. That was something we wanted to talk about.
Ooh,
Yes.
yes. Should we do the Steam Awards first?
Let's do that because I think I'm a bit more confused, sort of, around like why it's different, I guess, or the relevance of it. I don't know. Yeah,
Well, okay, in my mind, the Game Awards includes every game. Well, that's not true. It doesn't include um board games, which is kind of a shame because there are some good board games and card games that come out, but that's neither here nor there. Maybe they have their own award I'm not aware of. Because they might be included in the Indie Game Award, and I'm not sure. But anyway, the Steam Awards is only for games on Steam. So it doesn't include mobile games because Steam doesn't do mobile games. It doesn't
right.
include console. It's just Steam. It does include the Steam Deck, but I don't have a Steam Deck. You have a Steam Deck.
I do have a
So
Steam Deck.
I couldn't vote on that because there are some times where I vote on a category for a game I haven't played if I've watched less plays of it, or like my friends, um like if you say to me a game and then I hear about it from another friend and I hear about it from another friend and then I watch gameplay and I'm like, you know what, actually, from what I've heard and what I've seen, this game deserves an award, then I'm happy to vote on something I haven't played. Um but with the Steam Deck, I haven't heard anything from anyone I know that's got one that's like, oh yeah, that really stood out. That was amazing.
Okay, so just
Because it also depends on who's nominated.
yeah, I mean, I guess the Steam Deck for me, like, okay, so the reason the one of the reasons I bought it was to have a device that could emulate certain games, like some of the ROM hacks that I like and that kind of stuff. So the emulation capabilities of it is undeniably one of the best. So that's number one reason why I have it. Number two, there's certain games on it that are amazing to play portably that
Mm,
you never have had the chance to play like in that format. So for example, like Devil May Cry 5, pretty much near enough when it came out, was fully compatible with Steam Deck. So now if you offer me the chance to play that portably somewhere, I'm gonna bite your arm off for that. Um, and there was a couple of devices that could do it, but I just liked the overall package of the Steam Deck. So yeah, that being said, like games made specifically for it or compatible with it that came out in the last year that makes it eligible for like an award. I don't know. Like I'm not really using my Steam Deck like that. Do you see what I mean? Like I'm using it to play like certain games that I really like. When you travel, you don't like for me, when I travel, like I don't necessarily want to start a completely new game. Like, I like having the option. Sometimes I like having a new game like on the device that I can start completely new. But nine times out of 10, I just gravitate towards something that I already know, like, I can just pick up and play for like an hour. Because sometimes when you're traveling, you can travel for an hour, you feel fine, and then you can get a headache or something that you don't want to play anymore. You just want to sit back. So it's because it's like a bit of a start and stop for me. If you hit some turbulence, you don't want to play, or you want to put it away, or if you want. The thing is with the Steam Deck as well, like you can hold it. It's really massive. Like you can hold it and play it, but
yeah.
like nine times out of ten, I'll prefer just to put it on the little tray table. But but then because the Steam Deck is so powerful, it needs like a really big battery pack. So now on your tray table, you got the Steam Deck, you got a battery pack, and well, I need a controller because I want it to be on the table. So I have a controller in my hand. And then she comes over and she's like, "Do you want chicken or rice?" And it's like, well, I have to put all of this away. So me trying to start a new game, then play it for like 2 3 hours, that it's a bit like maybe not, like maybe I don't travel enough for it to actually affect me in that way. So anyway, to answer your question in a long way, I don't really know if there's that many compatible games that are like stand out for the Steam Deck in that sense. But then again, would I necessarily know, because I don't really use it like that.
No, but there, interesting. So the games that have been nominated are quite interesting as well. Because I'm just looking at it now while you were
Mm,
talking. I was thinking, oh, I wonder what's on it, because it's telling me what I've actually played that I could nominate, and
mm,
then what's actually been nominated. So there are some kind of like the indie, like Indigo Park, which is kind of like okay, it's nothing like Five Nights at Freddy, but it's that mascot horror theme with a really cute raccoon called Rambly Raccoon, and I love him. He's brilliant, and it deserves an award just for that. But and then there's I Am Future, like, which I've been speaking about a lot. I feel like my cozy apocalypse game where it's possible I killed everybody and now I'm alone and everyone has been turned into androids, and somebody is now coming for me. It's like the story is, oh, I am loving the narrative while I try and survive on this rooftop. And then Nightingale, which came out in February, which I was super excited about, because it's kind of like Victorian style, um, but imagine the whole world is kind of come together, been destroyed, and you've been thrown into a magical realm, and now you have to survive. And that was so funny because so my headphones are like the SteelSeries headphones, not sponsored, and I love them. And they, when I am playing a game and I laugh, scream, or make a loud noise, it clips like the bit that I'm playing, and I think a couple of seconds before and a couple of seconds afterwards. And it's so funny because sometimes I listen to them over, and I have to delete some of them because sometimes I'm laughing at something ridiculous, like something I've done. I'm like, oh, that was silly. And then I don't want that clipped. I don't want a memory of that. But there are some times where it's really quite like a hilarious clip. I'm like, oh, this is quite wholesome. I can't do anything with this other than save it. But I know that in Nightingale, there was a while where I was playing it by myself, and then my friend started playing it. And then my friend started a world, and I was like, and I'm traveling to the world, and I was like, oh, this is fun to be playing. And I was like, wait a minute, what realm did you pick? I hope you didn't pick the swamp. I hate the swamp. And then he started laughing. I was like, why are you laughing? And then I got there and I was like, no, I don't want to be here. And then my friend who was also playing with us got there, and it's like, oh gosh, why did you pick the swamp? And the reason I hate the swamp is because when you're walking through the water, you're getting diseased. There's like things trying to kill you everywhere, and like it's so full that you can't see through the trees, and it's so hard to navigate that it's just kind of like, this is an awful place and I hate it. Whereas like the desert is a bit more sparse and the forest is abundant in resources.
no
And then even my
poison.
friend that picked the swamp, he's like, he died from, was it dysentery? Some sort of poison from the water. And he was like, I see why you hate the swamp. Like, you're dying every minute from a different thing. Swamp is awful and I hate it. But it's on the list. And then Rogue Trader, which Warhammer 40k, I haven't played a lot of, but I like the narrative. And obviously Power World, which are the only ones I've played that are nominated for the Steam Deck. And it's like, oh, I can
Okay,
see how Power World could be a good Steam Deck game.
so I'm gonna say something. I did vote since our last conversation on at least the Game Awards. The Steam Awards, I did not
Yeah.
vote. And the way I voted was basically I voted for like 90% of it was like Final Fantasy Rebirth. So, so like so every time a question came up, I was like, well, this is probably Final Fantasy. Like it was like okay, firstly, it was like best game of the year, and I was like, I think the only one I played from the list was maybe what actually was the nominations? Wait, let's double check this.
I was just getting mine up so I could compare.
Yeah. Let's just double check this because before I start spouting some nonsense, what is it called
I
again? Game Awards.
I hope this won't affect our friendship,
What?
but I don't think I put it in any category.
Oh, come on. That is not cool. What are you talking about?
Not even. I'm trying to look. I was like, nope,
Not
not
even for
even
best
one.
music.
What did I put for? Oh, sorry. The Silent Hill remake. Sorry.
You need to listen to Sephiroth's theme song. Listen, I have literally sat in
Are you
an
sent it to me?
I have literally sat in an auditorium listening to the music of Final Fantasy. I don't think there's a concert called the music of Silent Hill 2. Sorry, you lost that one right there. Uh, okay. Okay, so yeah, best game was, you know,
Ah,
Astro.
actually,
Okay.
there was a Silent Hill 2 live. Oh wait, no, that was
Oh,
in
whatever.
2019.
The
Fine,
final
you
the
win.
Yeah, of course I win. I can't believe you didn't vote for that. The Final Fantasy music has been like the theme concert has been going on for like 10 years. Outrageous. So best game of the year nominations were Astrobot, Balatro, Elden Ring, Black Myth Wukong, which I have not played. Uh, uh, Metaphor. Thing is, okay, so on this list, yeah, like the games that I would gravitate towards the most, like that. If you were saying to me, oh, like play a game this year, then I would probably have
Mm,
gravitated towards Astrobot, Black Myth Wukong, and Final Fantasy. The rest of them, like, I don't think they're bad. They're just not necessarily the kind of games I play. Um, or like I have to be in a very particular mood. And Elden Ring, like, I know it's got its fans, but those kind of what's it called? Like Bloodborne style games. Like
mm,
the thing is, okay, I like this goes back to like one of our other podcasts when you were basically saying like, play Minecraft, you make your own story and your own this, and in matter
yeah.
of fact, like one of the game directors of one of these Souls like games, he said that one of his inspirations was Lord of the Rings because when he would watch it in Japan, he couldn't understand the story at all. Like I think him and one of the co-directors or producers, they were younger or something, and they would watch Lord of the Rings, the original trilogy. Have you heard this story, by
Yeah.
the way?
Nope, nope.
Oh
Go
yeah,
on.
so they would watch the original trilogy and they would not understand a word of it. So they would just make up the story in their mind. They would just like imagine what was happening because they still couldn't really get what was going on, but they loved watching them. And so they basically extracted that and put that feeling into a game, which the sentiment of it I can totally understand. But for me, like I just like to have seeds of an idea of what's going on. So even though Black Myth Wukong is like a Bloodborne type of game, I would still play that because as much as those combat mechanics I'm not the biggest fan of, I will still like persevere to get the next nugget of the story because the story always feels like it feels like a reward. Whereas if there's no story or so, to in Bloodborne's defense, like when you get to the next area and you get to see the visuals of it, some of it visually is like such a treat to the eye, so it feels like a reward in itself. So that's cool for people who really like that, but for me it's more a case of I just need a bit of story. But that being said, for
But
that
there
kind
is a story.
yeah, but it's not like a deep narrative because the thing is your character is a made up character. It's my okay, this is a character where it's like I've
Okay,
named my character Jack in the Box, and like now now every time someone's trying to say my name, they just say, "Hello, stranger. Welcome to the land." And it's like, my name's Jack in the Box, bro. You didn't say my name. Like, come on. Like,
I
I
see
obviously
what you mean.
understand why, but it's just, yeah.
So the narrative you're following is other people's narratives, not your own. Whereas you
Uh,
want to follow a personal narrative. I
I,
think
I,
the lore in that game as well. A game that has lore has always got me.
you know what? Let me frame it like this. This might make more sense here because one of my early game franchises that I really used to like and still do was Prince of Persia, and
It makes sense.
I love how he would like monologue with himself and you would always get like bits of a story. Like it was a very like narratively driven game, and it was even like when you have you played it, but you must have played it, right? The original one. Yeah, you know how it ends, right?
It's been a long time.
Okay,
I can't remember.
but you have you
Sorry,
must
it
have
wasn't as impactful for me.
okay, fair enough, but you must have like you must have completed it, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Okay,
I can't remember every
may I
single game I've
spoil
ever
it?
played.
May I spoil it?
Well, it's not a spoiler. I just
Okay,
don't
wait,
remember.
wait. The reason I'm being very like anxious about telling you, even though it's like a 20-year-old game, is basically they're remaking it. So they're doing a. So if you wanted to have that experience again, I don't want to ruin it for you.
It won't happen. The
Okay, fine.
list of games is too long. It's
So
not on it.
so basically, in the end of that game, like it reverses back time, and it turns out he was like telling the narrative. So
Mm.
so it reverses back time all the way to the start, and so it's got this like perfect loop of a story. And they do other things like when you press pause, he says something like, "I'll pause the story for now, but when you're ready, tell me when to carry on." And so there was always like hints of like, "Oh, he's telling the story," and I think because I've always been so used to that deep, deeper kind of narrative. It's just what the kind of thing that I like for my games. Um, yeah. What's the next category? The next category. See, okay, this is what I was going to say about the Game Awards. This is what confuses me, yeah. And I think I heard someone else say this on a different podcast, which is basically like, surely the best. Okay, so you got game. I'm going to list out the three top categories: Game of the Year, Best Game Direction, Best Game Narrative. But like, surely the Game of the Year would have the best game direction and also the best game narrative, but then they're all separate things. And then also, what makes it more confusing is that the nominations are basically more or less like the same. So the first three categories, Final Fantasy Rebirth and Metaphor. I'm not going to bother to try and pronounce the second part, but Metaphor also are in that category of best narrative. So they're in three categories of the top three awards. So like, why?
So I don't know their reason, but that makes sense to me that those are three separate categories because if you're voting for a game, like a
Mm,
game is not just unless you're playing well, I know you don't play interactive fiction games, but unless you're playing an interactive fiction game where the focus is the narrative and like the rest of it is just kind of scene setting and immersion, there are lots of different elements to a game because and I'm sure you have played a game where the music was great but the game loop and the narrative were just terrible or the mechanics of the game were just broken and annoying but the narrative was really good or like or even just like the way the game came together and it's like when things happened when the score set in the special effects those were amazing the animations and you're like okay in direction
mm,
everything is very solid but the narrative is terrible and the actual gameplay is rubbish and like it's been put together in a good concise way and I get what you were going for but you've missed the mark and so it's kind of like you need those separate categories because games are a creative endeavor and so someone might create a game where it's like you know what this is the best direction I've ever seen but the the people working under you and the things you put together no, because even like when you think about, I know we speak about it a lot, but No Man's Sky, the narrative at the beginning of that game was terrible. The gameplay was awful, but the direction was really good actually because in terms of like the character and the animations of the character and the different creatures in the world it's like the vision that you had there was
mm.
amazing and so could have given it best direction and just like voted it the worst in every other category and so I feel like this year yes there could be a game that wins all three of those because of what's come out but it doesn't mean that every year that will be the same.
I hear what you're saying. I think having listened to you now, what I think my question maybe I should have done a better way of phrasing it is I feel like to some level they kind of cannibalize each other a little bit, and I think that kind of shows by the fact that there is some games that are listed multiply through the category. That I don't. That's not for me to say that I disagree with you. I do agree with a lot of what you've said there, but I guess I just find it interesting how, because to me sometimes like listening to what you're saying and then thinking about like my experiences with some games, sometimes it's hard to split um, the narrative from the direction, from the this, from the that. Um, because I feel like, especially with video games, like they bleed into each other in a much more in a much more intimate way. Um, but I do still agree with you. I guess they are distinct. It's just in my mind, some of the games that I play, they tend to be so like woven in, like everything is like such deeply intertwined.
I think it's because of you play a particular type of game
Mm,
and you're looking for a game that has all of those things.
true.
You don't like, from what I know of you, you don't tend to play a game that's like, oh, I'm playing this for the narrative, I'm playing this for the music, I'm playing this for the game direction. You want a game that encompasses all of that and
Yeah, that's
performs
yeah, that's true.
well.
Actually, yeah, that's very true.
Whereas I'm like, I will play a broken game. I will play a game where it's all about the mechanics, it's all about the music, it's all about the art, and the other things are just secondary. Because even like the fact that you've got music score separate to audio design, I think is fantastic. But I kind of wish there was a separate category for special effects and Foley design, because like I suppose it can go in audio design, but I feel like Foley design is separate because it's a bit more subtle. Like in Baldur's Gate, the Foley design for the clothes that you're wearing, like the fact that the armor like makes a sound as you're running if it's heavy armor, amazing. And like the different terrains, and it's like that's, you could count that as audio design, but then audio design also includes like a narrative and people talking and how the music kind of underlays under the people talking. It's a completely different thing. And I think if you're going to separate out audio design from scores, then you probably should include like special effects and music, because does art direction include special effects, or is it just the visual kind of look of it? Because then that's a little bit kind of like, well, art is more than
Yeah.
just the look.
See, I think we do actually agree a little bit on this because it sounds like you want a new category for Foley, and
Yeah.
it's maybe a bit too intertwined to audio design. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's why, in a way, you have something like the Steam Awards where they try and make their categories a bit more like specific, I want to say. Um, it's nice to have like more than one type of award. You know what I'm realizing with a lot of these awards, the problem I have is like constantly trying to get through my backlog. So by the time I've played half of these games, like their awards happened like 2 years ago. Do you know what I mean? Like I think this year I was playing Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I think early in the year I was playing that. That was really good. Um, you know, I am not. You know what? Um, the first Star Wars game, what was it called? Oh, I'm blanking now. Wait one sec. It was uh, Star Wars Fallen Order. Yeah, yeah, Fallen. So I wasn't really that big of a Star Wars fan, I'd say, but Star Wars Fallen Order actually made me like much more of a Star Wars fan to the point where I think I wanted to 100% that game. And
Wow.
um, and the thing is with Jedi Survivor. I was waiting to play it. Then I managed to finally play it. It was a good continuation, but the point of that game is like it's the thing of when do you play something? Because that I think that was a reason why I didn't really feel like I shouldn't vote, because it was this thing of like I don't necessarily play some of the latest games when they come out. Like I like to, you know, it's twofold, right? It's like I like to wait until the hype goes away from it, because sometimes the hype can be negative. The hype can be it can be positive and negative. It can like really color your opinion on something, and like I don't want that sometimes. Like I'd rather be very far removed from the when the release comes out. Um, not to mention some of it gets cheaper, so that's always nice as well. Um, So I'll play them late. I don't have a problem with that, especially if it's not like my franchise. Like my franchise is like Metal Gear Solid. Like have to play that on day one. Like can't not play that. Um, so this is a big thing for me. It's like playing games late. But just briefly on Star Wars Survivor, great game. It's like a Souls-like game. Story was pretty good. Arguably one of the better Star Wars games that they've made, especially as a single player game. Um, I also played Metal Gear Solid, the Master Collection. So I think when they dropped one of the new trailers for the Delta remake, they actually also dropped Metal Gear Solid, the Master Collection for I think it was around October 2023. So technically, that still falls in the 24 like lifespan category of the awards. Kind of surprised it didn't get, yeah, because that's why I was asking you off the podcast. I was like, when does it count? Because it was October to October, right? No, November. It was November
No, it's
to.
November, so it doesn't. It
Oh,
would have
it
been last
doesn't.
year. Yeah, that's why I always think games that come out in September and October very interesting because they won't be eligible and people won't have played them long enough and they won't have had enough time to do any updates.
Okay, so my dyslexia hits again with time. I've had a great 3 days with that. But November, okay,
No.
so technically, I guess it came out right at the end of the last awards cycle, which is fine. But the point is, like, that's like my game, right? So I got to play that. And then because it was the first time that one, two, and three have all had PlayStation 5 trophy support, it's like you need to try and get the trophies now. And then that takes like, 16 hours per game or like 30 hours per game. So that's like 90 hours right there, which by the way I haven't done. Like I made a very small dent in some of those trophies, but this is what I'm talking about where you get a game like Jedi Survivor comes out, then you get a game like Metal Gear come out, and then now like that's like cannibalizing my time. So if you ask me like, oh, you should vote, and I'm like, oh, I haven't played Balatro. I haven't played half of these games because I'm looking at my catalog and then I'm looking at, well, should I play a game for my catalog because I already own that, or should I spend more money buying the latest game to try and play that? It's like this dichotomy of like, what's economically smart, and then like, you want to be a part of the conversation, but then I don't mind not being a part of the conversation and joining it late. Um, so yeah, but funnily enough, I basically voted for Um, I made most of my votes were for Final Fantasy VII. I just vote every time half of these other games I didn't barely recognize, and if I did do a bit of research into them, I was like, um, I was still feeling like, oh, Final Fantasy is probably better than that. I was like, I would just guess. I'd be like, oh, Final Fantasy probably better than that. Like, um, so yeah, that's kind of how I voted, which I'm not saying people should vote like that. That's for sure. Don't vote like that. Um, but that's how I voted.
Okay. So, and you didn't vote in the Steam Awards.
The Steam Awards, I have not even really looked at. See, I think you're more of like a social gamer in that sense. Like, I think you like looking at I'm very insular. I just sort of grab a game and I'll just play that and then I'm done. Like,
See,
yeah,
I feel like you're more of a social gamer because you know what's going on in the social realm of games. Whereas I'm like, I like this game, it suits me, I'm gonna play it. And that's the end of it. So then I end up playing games that, like, even when we speak, you've never heard of because no one's talking about them because it's
maybe
such a niche community.
maybe we both are, but just in our own ways.
Maybe.
Um, So how does it work on Steam? Do they have preset stuff or can you search for them?
They have preset things.
See, this is a surprise to me actually. I'll read this one off. Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. That's like a 13-year-old DLC, and that's on the
What what category though? You have to pick a
Game of the
category.
Year. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, that's like
Is
a
it?
yeah. Search it on
Oh, but that's
PC port.
the 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 oh, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a version that only came out on the 29th of October.
I mean, I guess people do love it, so I can't blame them for having it. It's just a surprise.
It's because it's recent and it's
Yeah,
story rich. It's single player, which is interesting. So they kind of went back to single player from the multiplayer online, which is still really popular.
you know, this looks like they span a lot more, like a lot more games. Like it seems like they're including a lot more games compared to.
I don't know who decides on the games in the Game Awards. Obviously, the Steam one is probably easier because you would just do it by the data that's on Steam of people's ratings and time played. I'm
Yeah, no,
assuming
I think.
that's how they do it.
Oh, what's this? Best games you suck at. Oh, this is what you're talking about. That is a funny category. So what we've got FIFA. Oh wait, it's called FC now. FC 24, Balatro. Diplomacy is not an option. Sounds like my Saturday night. Shin Megami Tensei. Drover, another Crab Treasure, Black Myth Wukong, Tekken 8, the finals, Witchfire, Ghost of Tsushima. Wait, how could you suck at Ghost of Tsushima? Isn't there an easy
See,
mode
that
on
was
that?
the one I voted for. I suck at it.
Man, I got a hot take on that. I do not think it was as good as people give it credit for.
I think game direction amazing, gameplay really enjoyable, animations fantastic, um, special effect great, actual game and narrative not as great as I thought it was going to be, but oh my gosh, the grass. Like the grass had me,
Okay,
but in the same way that
it
the
sounds like we basically have the same opinion on this because
mm,
my whole thing was like, you know, onsen spas in hot springs and getting to see you know, the whole Jin Sakai, 10 out of 10. We love that. But but you know what the thing is? Like for me, the gameplay loop, the combat mechanics. The combat mechanics were just a bit they were just a bit dry. They just felt so like safe. Do you know what I mean? Light, medium, heavy attack, gadget attack. You know, they had a showdown mechanic, which was cool, but the okay, if the game's in three chapters and they showed me the showdown mechanic in chapter one, then that was really cool for chapter one. But then for chapter two and three, basically highlighting the showdown mechanic as like this is something that's really wicked. I was a bit like, yeah, but we've literally had that for like 5 hours. Like that's a long time for you to like show me a flagship feature, and then now you're giving me it for another 10 hours and then making it seem like it's still as cool as the first hour I played with it. That would kind of be like you get a Pikachu and then you play only using the Pikachu for the whole entire duration of the game. Like it's different because you choose that. You can choose that because you have a team of six
yeah.
in Pokemon, but in Ghost of Tsushima, you don't get to choose the feature. It's just the way that you will have a fight. You will have a showdown, or you will go into stealth. You don't get to pick a different Pokemon. You get to do stealth, or you get to do the showdown. And I agree with you. The other aspects of the game was cool, like um, you know, um, yeah, the visual flair. Like I liked some of the story. I thought it was okay. Um, but overall, Okay, you know what the best parts of the game was for me? Like the showdown was cool, but like when they did a showdown and it was like with a single character. So when you went to fight a boss, so you would like, I don't know, find all these fox shrines or something, and then there'd be like the fox lord. You have to kill him at the end of finding all the shrines, and it was like in a cave in the middle of nowhere. So you have to like find the cave, and once you go in the cave, then they have this dialogue, and then you do a showdown, but the showdown does not kill him. But when you do a showdown with the regular characters, it kills them. So that makes sense because you're fighting a boss. And so
Yeah.
that was really cool for me, like how they implemented the mechanic, but then showed like, okay, you've known this mechanic to work for all your other opponents, but because you're fighting someone who is like vastly stronger, it's not going to work on him. So that was a very cool way to subvert the expectation of that mechanic. But then once you've done that like 4 times, they don't really have any other direction to go for that same mechanic. So yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that game. My wife loved it. She loved the game. She thought it was great. Um, so I think she did really enjoy it, and she was telling me to play it. I played it, but honestly, yeah, not. I just think the mechanics for me weren't there. They were. If I'm being honest, I would have preferred them to make Infamous, like another Infamous game, because the last one was so good and narratively it was amazing. Um, they had a DLC which was all about drugs and stuff, and like, you know, that was so cool to see that perspective. They have, honestly, arguably that Infamous game is probably like a better the Flash game than any Flash game we've had, because there's a power that is like a super speed power, and you could like run across like the entire city using that power, and it's cool. Like they
There was
they
a
need to.
Flash game.
No, no, that's what I'm saying. There isn't really a Flash
Oh,
game, and like that is probably like the closest you could get to like a Flash, style. We're talking Flash the suit DC superhero, not Flash video, like on the website
yeah,
games.
I thought that's what you meant. That's what I was like. There's a Flash game.
No, yeah. So yeah, I think I would have honestly preferred them to just make, because it really felt like they were going down like an X-Men route, because he had all these powers and he was getting multiple different ones, and you were meeting other people that were like sort of like Magneto, and she was really evil and all this kind of stuff, and they had a lot going for them. And the art, they used a comic book art style in some of the flashbacks. Honestly, they were, I don't know what happened with that game, but they were going down such an interesting path. I was looking forward to playing the next one, and then they made this, which was like, it was okay, but for me it just didn't hit the mark.
Mm, I think it was beautiful though.
Yes, yeah, yeah, undeniably. It's just it was a lovely game. It's just for me, I need the mechanics to pull me in. If the mechanics don't pull me in, like I can't persevere. Yeah,
I think I also thought it would be more open world and less like narrative than it was.
what do you mean open world though? Because it was a relatively open world game.
Well, when I say open world, like there wasn't like a path I had to follow. Like I could have just gone whatever direction I wanted, but there was like a guiding, very subtle thing of you need to go this way.
That's a very good point actually, because you're correct. Whenever I went off the path, there were enemies that were too strong. Like you just couldn't get past them. So you're all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't what I was expecting. And that's not, the game's fault.
Let's see what other characters. So I'm looking at the Steam, looking at some more categories. There's just some really popular games that I just like. I want to get into, but I just have never gotten into, which is like Dragon Quest. Like,
Which category are we looking at?
so this is outstanding story rich game award. So there's some games that I really do want to get into, but I just haven't had the time like to actually do it. Because I do want to play the Silent Hill 2 remake. Like that is very high. Ooh, Five Hearts Under One Roof. Looks like a game of the Year award. Um, But no, I haven't got into Dragon Quest. I haven't got into Silent Hill 2. Yeah, it's just hard to find the time sometimes, you know.
Mm.
Oh, that's quite cool. If you vote for them, you get a badge. Steam nomination awards committee badge.
Do you?
Uh, yeah, yeah, apparently you do. Well, that was the Steam Game Awards. Did you have anything else you wanted to add on that?
Um. Oh, so the last category, the sit back and relax. Do you have a game that's like your sit back and relax game that,
Okay,
like, no matter what's going on?
so I have one game that I will play if I'm on the phone with someone and I don't need to think. No, I have two games actually for that. So I have tried to play like some games while on the phone, but my brain gets too distracted by the game and I stop listening to the person, which is pretty rude. So you don't want to get into a game where you're like, so Street Fighter 6, I can't do that. I get too into it because it to me Street Fighter is like very high level reactionary chess. Okay, that's how I see it. It's like you have, someone jumps, so you have to have the reaction capability of predicting the jump and then reacting to the jump with the right move. So to me, it's very high level chess, which sounds crazy, but it's the best way I can describe it. So when you're doing something like that, you're quite engaged. So I can't play that, even though you would think it's quite a good game for that because it's not really a story, right? Um, so then I started playing Spider-Man because you can just swing around and just like run on the walls and stuff. And like there's some criminals that you can beat up, so that's quite easy. Um, the only thing is for me, right, is like I can't play a game like Stardew Valley or something like that, which is like a cozy game. Like I know what you mean, but I can't play these kind of games necessarily because to me, I still want to get into the story. Like I want to, even if it is a very minor detail of the game, I still want to know what's happening in the game. I want to know about the lore. And generally, I can't.
It's because you've never played them.
Yeah, so
Because there's a story.
yeah, this is what I mean. So I can't really turn some like once I get into them, I'm sure it could be one of those games. But currently, I'll play Spider Man. I'll swing around, or Streets of Rage 4 survival mode because like I don't need any audio. Like I pretty much know how to play the game like with no audio, so I can listen to whatever I'm listening to. And because it's survival mode, I can just quit whenever I want to quit. Um, so those are pretty much my go-to games. If we're talking like specifically about that category of like cozy, like you're getting a hot chocolate and you're sitting down and you're sort of playing that kind of game. I mean, the only one that really springs to my mind, which might not actually be in this category, is Wolf Among Us.
Okay.
Um, but I think that's more because of the way that the music is, the way the storytelling is, like that whole narrative design game. Like it still does have action bits in it, but once those parts are over, you're very much like trying to figure this thing out. It's such a moody game. Like when you look at the cell shading, the way that they've done everything, it's such a moody game. So like that would be the game where if you were like, you know what, it's really cold outside. There's a bunch of us. We want to sit down. We want to watch, like, sort of watch this kind of story unfold. Like, my mind would go straight to that because I can trust, like, I'll play it, but everyone watching me will enjoy it as well. So that's where my mind goes. But again, like, that's relatively old game. Um, but yeah, Wolf Among Us,
Okay,
though.
I
Yeah,
think
I'd say that.
okay, many things there. So I think because you've never played Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing, there is a storyline. It is all narrative. Um, Especially in Animal Crossing, the narrative is you have been kidnapped and you now owe this loan shark much money.
In Animal
That's the
Crossing.
narrative. Yep, that is the narrative boiled down. Let's not lie. You're on an island that you don't know how you got there. You have no stuff with you, and you suddenly meet this raccoon. He's like, "Oh, I'll build you a house, and this is how much you owe me." And it's like, wait a minute. I don't know if I want a house. I don't know where I am. And then he's like, "Oh, now your house is built and you've paid me that money. Let's upgrade it." It's like, and then when you answer him, the answer is yes or yeah, let's do it. And it's like, wait a minute. What about no? What about I don't want to do that? And then he's like, "Oh, now you need another floor. Now you need another room. How about you build some more bridges?" And then you've got Annabelle telling you your island's not a 5-star island. You've got too much stuff lying around. There aren't enough flowers. You haven't put the flowers in the right order. And it's just kind of like, Annabelle, I've worked hard on curating this island. What do you mean? It's like, "Oh, you don't have enough inclines. You have too many inclines." What? It's my island. No, it's not. It's Tom Nook and Annabelle's island, and you just live here. That's the narrative of Animal Crossing. And like, it is cozy because in the sense of the, like, for example, with coffee, you're meant to have a coffee a day and you get a reward. You can only have one coffee a day. If you try and have a second coffee to get more rewards, Brewster's like, "No, you've had your coffee today. Come back tomorrow." And he really means come back tomorrow. And if you reset the game, it's slightly different because um if you reset the game, like reset the time to try and move it to the next day, you get loads of weeds because the game is programmed to put weeds on your island if you've cheated in that way. And it used to be that you used to get this I think it's a mole come up out of the ground, and his name was Resetti, and he was like, "Oh, something's gone wrong here." And I can't remember what he did to you. Did he take stuff from you, or did he just tell you off? Because he was like, "Yeah, you reset the timing. Don't do that." And so it's just kind of like you got punished. And it's like, also, here's some weeds on your island that you're gonna have to clean up. Where Annabelle will say, "Oh, your island's not 5-star anymore. There's weeds everywhere. You better clean that up." So yeah, there is a narrative. Stardew Valley is kind of like it's a bit too close to home because it's like you're working a city job. Because it's Stardew Valley is based on Harvest Moon, the original one, but it basically took all the Harvest Moon things that people were like, "This could have been better," and it made them better, but kept the same visuals. And it's like you're working an office job, you're just a drone in like a cubicle, and your grandfather leaves you a letter. Sorry if you haven't played it, spoilers. And he's like, when life gets too much for you, open this letter. And basically, he's left you the deed to the farm. I don't know how long between your grandfather dying and you like deciding that life got too much to you was, but by the time you get to the farm, everything's broken down. It's covered in weeds. Seems to be a theme of cozy games. I don't personally find weeds very relaxing. Weeding up things is annoying. And it's like, oh, I hate weeding, but I like the money that comes from weeding because you can sell weeds. And so the narrative is you're trying to get married, have a child, fix the farm, and find all of these star fruits so that your grandpa's ghost will come back and tell you a secret. I'm not going to tell you the secret.
Okay,
So
so
there is a narrative that you're following. The only one I would say like there is no narrative is probably Minecraft, because I suppose you could say the narrative is you've got to kill the dragon and find the end portal. But it's like not really. You could go the whole game and
I
never do that.
have a question for you about this. Um,
Hmm.
when do you think that this cozy game category, like, really came to like the forefront of people's mind? Because I feel like cozy games, like I'm sure in some form they existed in the past, but like I feel like the actual talk about them has like exploded. I feel like I remember maybe like around 2022 when Stray, you know that cat game, Stray, Stray. I remember when that cat game came out, that's when I noticed that there was this talk of like cozy games a bit more. Um, I'm wondering, do you remember like when that chatter started about these kind of games?
I think it's always been an underlying thing, but like you said, most popular games are combat games. And mostly when someone thinks about making a game, they assume you're going to make a combat game. And so it's just been a very underlying thing because like those sorts of games have always existed. Even if you look at like some PlayStation 1 games, there are some completely non-combat games that are really fun. Like for example, I'm sure I've spoken about it before. There was a Rugrats game called, oh, what was it called? It was Angelica's game, and she was like a fashionista, and you went around playing mini games
You
to
have
win
spoken about
things so
this,
that you
yeah.
like a fashion show. And it's like that's a cozy game to me. And a lot of the games that we talk about now, I'm like, I don't know if those are cozy games. Because in my mind, a cozy game is I'm sitting down, I'm relaxed, there's no stakes, and I can't die. If I can die in a game or become exhausted, I'm not cozy anymore. Because even like Animal Crossing, it's not cozy. I'm stressed. There's so many weeds. Annabelle's telling me stuff. Tom Nook is like trying to get all my money and expand my house, but not in the way that I want him to, in the way that he's told me I want to. And then like Harv wants me to take pictures on his islands of the newlyweds. Leaf wants to take my weeds, and like that woman wants me to dress up as a fashionista. All the characters are giving me clothes. I'm becoming a dictator because I don't like their clothes, so I'm giving them clothes, being like, don't wear that t-shirt I saw you in today ever again. Here's a dress, wear this from now on. And it's just kind of like, that's not cozy, that's not how cozy works. And it's and it's just like, also I can like shake the trees to get things, but if I get stung by a wasp, I can get stung by a wasp before, and then my eye blows up, and I have to walk around, and all the villagers are like, "Oh, what happened to you?" And then sometimes they'll give you medicine. It's like, "Oh, you look disgusting. Here's some medicine." And if you get stung twice, you faint and end up in front of your house. That's not cozy. The risk of, and then the scorpion that I need to catch for the money, but if I don't catch it, stings me, and then I faint and end up in front of my house. Or the tarantula, which does the same thing, just at a different time of the year. Not cozy. I just want to run around and enjoy my life. And like Stardew Valley, the fact that the day goes in seconds, a little bit like the Sims timing. It's like by the time I finish farming, and it's like, oh yeah, it's now 12. It's like, oh my gosh, I haven't gone to see any of my neighbors. I haven't bought a cow. I haven't even seen the animals. Oh my gosh, the day is almost gone, and all I've done is farm. And it's like they'll be seeing no one today. I'm going to bed. And then if you stay up late to try and achieve everything, it penalizes you by making you wake up late the next day, or making you faint and lose half the day the next day because you overexhausted yourself, or just making you faint and sending you back home.
just
Not
before we
cozy.
just
And
before we carry on,
go on.
am I right in thinking that you have just gone for the jugular vein of what most people will consider the number one cozy game in the world?
No, it's just
Oh,
because those are the
okay.
games I play, and
Okay.
people are like, "Oh, it's a cozy game." Even the game I voted the coziest game, it was the coziest game of the things on the list. Um, it was not. I would not call it a cozy game because it's the game that I Am Future, where it's like an apocalypse world. Everybody is dead. You have convinced them all to turn themselves into androids. You have conveniently lost your memory, so don't remember doing this. And apparently may have killed everyone and caused the downfall of humanity by introducing a parasite that is now killing your stuff while you're trying to rebuild society. But are you rebuilding society if you are a society of one? And you're surrounded by robots that you built, more robots that you built, not the previous robots that you built. And your ex girlfriend is what is she? Jukebox who just sings to herself all day, which I feel kind of bad about.
Okay. None of these games sound that cozy, so let's
You
just
see
let's
what I mean?
let's just stick with Wolf Among Us, maybe, just based on art style. I don't know.
But I think that's the thing. It's like, there is a, what is it called? There's a game awards for, is it the it's not the Cozy Game Awards. What is it called? there is like a wholesome game award, and I can't remember what it's called. Because sometimes me and my mum follow it at the beginning of the year, and it's games that are non-combat, really kind of like light-hearted and soft. And I think the last cozy game was the one where you were the bird. I can't remember what it was called. And you were just flying around, and you were like stopping and talking to people. But that was the whole game. There was no objective, there was no, like, you weren't aiming to do anything. You were just flying around, and like if you wanted to stop and talk to people, you could. If you just wanted to fly around and enjoy the visuals, you could do that. And that was the whole game. And it was like, yeah, that's a cozy game. I have no worries. There is no risk to my life or health. I don't even have a health bar. That I have no objectives. I'm just enjoying the moment. And it's like that to me is a cozy game. And I don't have a game where I'm just like, I'm just enjoying the moment. Because even in Minecraft, I have had to build a fortress around myself, surrounded by iron golems, in order to just enjoy the moment and not have to constantly be looking behind me because there's a witch or a zombie or a drowned or a creeper or a skeleton just there, imminent on killing me. Just like, no.
Interesting. Yeah. Um, I feel like we've covered the bases, right? You know what? Sometimes you go on such tangents, I forget what the initial question was. But we
It was
were
about the
definitely
Game Awards.
yes. And then in the Game Awards, there's a cozy section. Then we were talking about that. Cool. Um, did you? By the way, probably the last thing on this. Did you actually vote on the Steam Awards? Like, did you finish your voting? Did you?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah, I think we'll call it there. I do actually have one other topic, but maybe we'll save that for whatever episode this ends up being. That one ends up being, sorry. But I'm basically good for now. Um, did you have
It's
anything else you
annoying
want?
me that I can't remember the name of the Game Awards that's for like wholesome games, and it's really bothering me. Um, oh, what was that game where was it Kind Words? Because I'm sure that won.
Are you
Did you ever
talking
play
about?
that?
No. Um, oh, are you talking about the one where everyone's supposed to be happy or no?
The game or the
Yeah, it's
awards?
called like Our Neighborhood or something like that.
No, no, no. It was called like the Kind Words was a game that was just about writing letters to people. That was the whole game. You just wrote, and it was real people you were writing to, and you sat in your room and you handed it, and someone took it, and you got real letters back from people, and it was just
Wow.
like a random person. I don't think you had any way of contacting them, um, but I'm sure it won an award from this game thing that I'm trying to think of because it was all about like wholesome. It's I can't remember what it's called, but it's a game award for wholesome games and games that are about like positive mental health. It's also possible the reason I can't find it is because it doesn't exist anymore, with the same thing as most things at the moment. Like they just cease to exist,
Well,
which is
I
really
think
sad.
I think we've covered a
But
lot
yeah,
of our main topics here. So
yeah.
please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are gonna keep going until the organization of this becomes something we can't do. So we're still having a lot of fun doing this. Hopefully the editing is good and the audio is good. We're trying to always improve bits. That's why we're trying to make all these adjustments because we want it to be better. It's something important to us both. And yeah, please subscribe on our YouTube channel is our main thing. And please look forward to the next episode of us talking about video games when we can organize it. Goodbye. Bye. Bye bye.